video we looked at conflict and how conflict can happen and arise between two different stakeholders, and arises because of the incompatibility between what each stakeholder wants from the organization. So if we move on and then talk about the relationships that exist between all of the different stakeholders in an organization. So those relationships can be cooperative or competitive. So a cooperative relationship means that there's a mutual respect and a mutual gain on both sides. That means both parties gain something from being involved in this relationship, that it's not positive on one side and negative on the other. It's not something that maybe might be confrontational. A competitive relationship is where there's a constant struggle in the relationship. One side wins, the other side loses. So one side is always going to be on top, has more power and more effect and more influence than the other party. And that obviously there's going to be an effect of that. So it depends on the nature of the relationship. So in some organizations, Ryanair would be a classic example, the staff and management relationship is a competitive one because they seem to be regularly disagreeing on paying conditions, and that has an effect on the business. Whereas other organizations may try and get the staff and management to cooperate more and have more positive meetings where they're constantly planning what they can do that is in the best interest of the organization and obviously of the stakeholders themselves. Now, if a conflict happens, we have to resolve the conflict. And there's two ways we can resolve it. So non-legislative means that the two parties who have a disagreement, they sit down and they negotiate. And it would involve a certain level of give and take, that we might get something from it, but we'll have to be willing to give something in return. So it's usually something that happens within the organization. We may not need outside people, but if we do get outside people to help us resolve this dispute, it tends to be somebody who is maybe a non-professional, certainly somebody who is not a state employee. Whereas a legislative way of resolving it, we could use a state mediator. That means an organization set up by the law like the CCPC or the WRC, the Workplace Relations Commission, that they may be asked to get involved to help resolve the issue. So that's an organization set up by the state. Another possibility, the second way of legislatively resolving a dispute is to use the law. So I go to a court and I say, here is my complaint. Both sides describe the situation to a judge, and the judge interprets the law and decides which side wins or loses. So that's the legislative way of resolving a dispute.